Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another episode of the Golden Age. This is a series of Warhammer Fantasy battle reports, and this is battle report number 69. It is a 2,500 point battle that is fought between Fresh Prince Bel-Air as well as myself. Fresh Prince Bel-Air is bringing House Lainel, the Silvery host of Caledor, a 2,500 point High Elves army, and I am playing the Legion of the Hellmouth, a 2,500 point Ogre Kingdoms army. So I'm really excited for this one. We get to use our armies at 2,500 points. Want to see exactly what I can do with it. Been having kind of a mixed record so far between wins and losses with this Ogre Kingdoms army, but needless to say, I'm really excited to see exactly what's going to happen. So we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Valor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is battle line with standard Vic deployment as well as standard victory conditions. You know it, you love it. That's the most typical game of Warhammer we play. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. We're playing on a 4x6 table. I am deployed on the far side of the table, while my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air is deployed on the near side of the table. And as you can see, he's actually got most of his army kind of tucked in right in the bottom right-hand corner of the battlefield, protecting his right-hand flank. And at the same time, he's got a lot of really powerful infantry forces located in his army as well. So this one's going to be kind of a tough nut to crack. Luckily for me, though, I do play Ogre Kingdoms, so my army tactics is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to charge as quickly as I possibly can, engage them in close combat, and try to destroy them as quickly as I possibly can. These guys are High Elves after all, so they only have toughness of 3, and most of my stuff is Strength 4 standard, so it should be really easy to take these guys out pretty quickly. What I plan on doing is hopefully sitting in my Mordheim cap, I can destroy his chariot as well as his cavalry there on the right-hand flank, and then that way I can kind of hit him from the right, and then the rest of the plan is send the rest of my infantry forces, my Red Rovers, my Stankham's Legion, as well as my Powder Ganger straight forward. Try to weaken up his forces a little bit with some fire from my my lead belchers, and then just kind of finish him off that way. And then finally, my last thing, I'm going to use my iron blasters. I'm going to try to suppress his bolt throwers. He does have 3 of them in this army. I'm going to try to destroy those guys with my cannons. And that's pretty much the plan I have for this one. So with the battle plan over, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so starting on the left-hand side, we have the Silent Striders. These are 5 Illyrian Reavers. They have a musician. They're equipped with hand weapons, spears, bows, light armor, as well as elven steeds. And these guys are guarded up there 12 inches forward, so that way they can start taking some pot shots and harassing my forces right off the bat. On his left-hand flank on the top of the hill, those are the Reins of Caledor. Those are 3 Eagle Claw bolt throwers, and those are pretty dangerous as well because you do not get armor saves against those, so I'm pretty terrified about those artillery pieces. And located in the center of his army is deployment areas where most of his infantry forces are located at. So let's start with the left-hand side. First of all, just right off the bat, my opponent made a mistake on this one, and I kind of made a mistake on this as well because I didn't pay attention to his army. On the left-hand side, he's got a unit of 15 White Lions of Trace. Those are called the Everqueen's Rangers. There's 15 White Lions with full command. They also got the banner of Eternal Flame. Now, the thing about that is, though, is that unit is not part of his army list. At 2,500 points, that unit is not part of his army. It's just that when we play High Elves, we usually play at 3,000 points, and he usually just brings that unit with him all the time. So he kind of made a mistake there. So that unit is not supposed to be there. So we will notice that. So like for you more astute viewers, you might have noticed that's not supposed to be in the army list on the rosters, and you're absolutely right. So he did bring about a 200+ point army unit that's not supposed to be here. On the right right-hand side, however, is a unit that is supposed to be there. That's the Ever Wardens. That is unit 25 Phoenix Guard with full command. They're equipped with halberds as well as heavy armor. And right next to them on the right-hand side, those are the Lore Master's Blades. Is unit 19 Sword Masters of Hoeth with full command. They got great weapons as well as heavy armor, and they're also equipped with the Razor Standard. Also leading that unit as well is Tytos Lainel, the Lore Master of Caledor. He's a Lore Master of Hoeth, a level 2 wizard. He's got all the signature spells from all 8 lores of battle magic. He's also packing a great weapon as well as heavy armor, and he's also got the Book of Asher for that +1 casting bonus, as well as Dispel bonus as well. Now right behind them, that is the unit called the Dawn Guard, is unit 23 Lothern Sea Guard. They have full command with light armor, shield, hand weapons, spears, as well as bows. And leading that unit as well as Tanis Lainel, Captain of the Dawn Guard. He's a Lothern Sea Helm with Battle Standard Bearer upgrade. He's got a spear, bow, light armor, and shield, and he's also carrying the Standard of Discipline. And that makes up the deployment here in the center of his battle lines. And finally, on the right-hand flank, on the left-hand side, that is the Sunrunner as a Terranok Chariot with 2 crew members with spears as well as longbows. And right next to them on the right-hand side, those guys are called the Silver Sentinels. It is a unit of 8 Silverhelm Knights with full command. They're equipped with lances, heavy armor, shields, as well as barded elven steeds. And leading that unit, of course, is the General, Lord Tywin Lainel. He's the Warden of Caledor. He is a prince. He's also the general for this army. He's got a shield as well as a barded elven steed. He's packing the Ogre Blade as well as the Armor of Destiny. So he's got the 1-up armor with a 4-up save, ward save. He's also got +2 to his strength as well from the Ogre Blade. So that guy is pretty much a kid out to kill. And then right next on the far right-hand side, that is Diani the Two Souls. That is a mage, a level 2 Lore of Beasts. He's got a hand weapon as well as barded elven steed. He's packing the Reaver Bow as well as a Dispel Scroll. And that pretty much makes up his deployment on this one. Alright, so now it's time for the Ogre Kingdoms. On the left-hand side, I have my 2 Iron Blasters. On the left-hand side, that's the Hammer of the Gods. And right next to them on the right, that is the Anvil of Hell. And then right next to them on the right-hand side, that is the Red Rovers. That's a unit of 6 Ogres with the Bellower as well as Standard Bearer. They're equipped with hand weapons, light armor, as well as Iron Fists. And in the center of my armies, where a bulk of my infantry force is located at, right in the middle there, that is Stankum's Legion, is a unit of 9 Iron Guts with a Bellower as well as a Standard Bearer. They're equipped with great weapons as well as heavy armor, and they have the Standard Discipline, giving them +1 to their leadership. And leading that unit are my 3 characters. On the left-hand side, that is Korgold, the Giant Breaker. He's my Bruiser. He's also my Battle Standard Bearer. He's got great weapon as well as heavy armor. He's got the Giant Breaker Big Name as well as the Dragonhide Banner as well. So it gives them the Strength 3 Breath Attack that makes anybody attacks strike last when close combat. Right next to him in the center, that is Taijin Khan, the Right Fist of Hell. That's my Slaughter Master. He's also general of my army. He's got the level 4 Lord of the Great Maw. He's packing the Fencer's Blades, Glittering Scales, as well as a Greedy Fist. So he gets +1 to his strength. He's got a 6-up ward save, +/- hit against a close combat with weapon skill 10. So pretty much everyone's hitting him on a 6-up for most cases. And then finally, right next to him on the right hand side, that's Burbzo Blood, the Pyromaniac of the Steppes. That's my Fire Belly. He's got a level 2 Lore of Fire with a great weapon. He's also packing the Hellheart. And then finally in the center on the right hand side, that is the Powder Gangers. That is a unit of 8 Lead Belchers with a Bellower, and they're all packing Lead Belcher guns as well as light armor. And finally, on the far right-hand flank, that is the Beast Claw Raiders. Is a unit of 4 Mornfang Cavalry. They got a Bellower as well as Standard Bearer. They're equipped with hand weapons, heavy armor, as well as Iron Fists. And that pretty much makes my deployment on this one. So with the deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and Fresh Prince Bel-Air and I roll off for initiative to see who goes first. And I managed to get first on this one, so because that turn number 1 goes directly to the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the movement phase, and I start moving up kind of gingerly towards my opponent. I don't really want to march my forces up forward, and the reason why is because I don't want to be countercharged, because that's a huge problem for Ogres. You always want to do the charging in the Ogre Kingdoms army because you get impact hits. You also get D3 impact hits if your charge range is over 10 or higher when you roll for your charges. So because I just move everybody up their normal movement allowance is all I end up doing. So on the left hand side, I move up my Iron Blasters, start going around the King in Yellow statue, so that way I can blast apart those Silent Striders with a Grape Shot. At the same time, I also march up the move up the Red Rovers, Stankum's Legion, as well as the Powder Gangers. They move up all their normal movement allowance in front of that forest to kind of use that as cover. At the same time, I also move up my Beast Claw Raiders there on the far right-hand side. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the Anvil of Hell as well as the Hammer of the Gods, getting ready to bring the pain by opening with some juicy Grape Shot rounds directly into that unit of Silent Striders. And here's a close-up of Stankum's Legion as well as Red Rovers moving up as quickly as they can across the battlefield, taking some cover between the tower as well as the forest there in the middle of the battlefield. And finally, there's a close of the Powder Gangers, as well as the Beast Clawed Raiders, also moving up forward as well. The only problem I gotta worry about is that force is gonna give a -1 to hit for my Powder Gangers in the next shooting phase, so that part is kind of rough. So during the magic phase, I was able to get the boosted version of Toothcracker off, which is kind of cool, which means everything within 12 inches of my army has a +1 to their toughness. So that part was kind of nice. The rest of my Lord of the Great Moss spells were pretty much dispelled by my opponent, so Fresh Prince Bel-Air pretty much put that on lockdown. However, I was able to cast off the boosted version of Fireball from Burps of Blood. He managed to kill 4 of the White Lions with Trace, so it's not enough to cause that unit to break because High Elves don't break like that. And so, but you know, it's 4 of those White Lions I gotta deal with. And yes, I'm aware that these guys are not supposed to be there, but like, you know, we just report the battle report as it is. And during the shooting phase, I opened up fire with both the Anvil of Hell as well as the Hammer of the Gods using Grape Shot and managed to wipe out the Silent Striders, so that part was kind of cool. One less unit of High Elves I gotta worry about. And at the same time, I opened fire with the Powder Gangers directly into the Silver Sentinels. Managed to kill 4 of those Silver Helm Knights, which was pretty awesome as well. I managed to get out some ungodly number of shots. I think it was like 28 shots. Not very many of them actually hit because I had to go through the forests, but at the same time, that was enough to kill 4 of them, and that part was pretty awesome as well. That unit's almost cut in half, which is pretty nice. Unfortunate for me, though, my opponent did pass his Penite test, so they didn't end up going anywhere. And since there is no combat, because no one charged forward, that pretty much ends turn number 1 for the Ogre Kingdoms. So with that being said, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the High Elves. So here's the bottom of turn number 1 for the High Elves. This photo is taken after the movement phase, and as you can see in this photo, not much movement really happened for the High Elves. My buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air did try to charge forward with the Sunrunner directly into the Beast Claw Raiders, but unfortunately for him, though, he failed his charge roll, so because he only stumbles forward, I think 5 inches is all he ends up doing. However, the Silver Sentinels had no problem making that charge distance, and they close the distance and go directly into my Beast Claw Raiders and engaging those guys in close combat. The rest of his army, as you can see here, did not move whatsoever because it behooves them not to. I mean, they're infantry forces, and they just need to stand their ground. And that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the Sunrunner failing its charge, so because of that, that chariot only goes up forward, I think 5 inches is what it ends up doing. And here's a close-up of his Silver Sentinels with this General Tywin Lainel as well as Danny the Two Souls, his mage, charging directly into the Mornfang Cav. And that combat could be kind of interesting because those guys get strength bonuses from their charges. So I'm pretty excited to see exactly how this combat turns out. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And in the magic phase, he managed to get off Weason's Wild Form directly onto the Silver Sentinels, giving everybody +1 to their strength as well as +1 to their toughness. So now these elves are strength 4, toughness 4 High Elves, and on the charge they got strength 6 with their lances, so that's kind of terrifying. Not to mention their general is now, I think, as a strength 7, I believe, elf, because he's got 2 from the Ogre Blade as well as 1 from the Weason's Wild Form as well, so that part is pretty terrifying. And at the same time, he managed to cast Ice Shard Blizzard off directly onto my Powder Gangers, giving them -1 to hit, as well as -1 to the leadership as well, which is kind of rough. I'm really sad about that part, so I'm going to have to spend some time to dispel that one so that way they'll be able to shoot again. And that pretty much makes it my opponent's magic phase. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And unfortunately for my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air, shooting phase was pretty lackluster. He did manage to open fire with his Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers from the Reigns of Caledor. Only 2 of them managed to hit, though. The 2 shots that did hit, though, they did manage to kill one of my Iron Guts, so that part's kind of sad. At the same time, though, when he concentrated fire with his archers from the Lothern Sea Guard, the Dawn Guard, they managed to plink off the last one of my guys, so that part was kind of sad as well. It's just the number of shots he got off. He was rolling a bunch of 6s and managed to kill 2 of my Iron Guts, so 2 less for me to use in close combat, but them's the breaks. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And in the combat phase was an absolute slaughter for me, for my opponent, which is pretty bad. He managed to get off 7 wounds when it was all said and done. Managed to kill one of my Mornfang Cavalry as well as put a floating wound on another one as well. And when I tried to return attacks, unfortunately, I just failed my attacks. I just flubbed tasking on that part. I wasn't able to cause any wounds whatsoever. So because of that, my opponent charged. He's also got a standard bearer with him as well, and he also caused 7 wounds, which gives a grand total of 9 combat results. I have a standard, so it drops him down to 8, but at the same time, though, he still beat me by 8. So the worst part about it, these guys are leadership 7, so I have to roll Snake Eyes in order to stand my ground.
Retreat! Retreat! Let's get the hell out of here!
And needless to say, I did not pass my panic check, my break test. I'm not within range of my battle standard bearer, so because of that, I fail it. I rolled back. I think I rolled like a 6 in order to flee. However, my opponent, First Principal, rolled a 10, so because of that, the Silver Sentinels just run down and chop down the last of my Beast Claw Raiders. So that part was really sad, losing 3 of my Mornfang Cav just like that, and that was horrific. I don't mind telling you. So now that I'm done singing the star, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the movement phase. And as you can see in this photo, I made some mistakes on this one. I didn't really, get off a lot of charges like I wanted to. First of all, I do declare charge with the Red Rovers, so those guys go tearing directly into the Everqueen's Rangers, so that part was kind of nice. However, when I declared a charge with my Stankum's Legion, I rolled to see how far I went, and I failed my roll disastrously. I rolled a 3 and a 1, so because I didn't go very far at all, and my guy just kind of stumbled forward 3 inches to the woods, so that part was pretty horrific. So both of my charges failed. For the rest of my submarine sub-movement phase, I take the hammer and the anvil of the gods, the anvil of hell, as well as the hammer of the gods, and those guys skirt around the King in Yellow statue as well as past that tower, so that way they can open fire with their cannons. So I'm looking forward to that. At the same time, I'll also move up my powder gangers or normal moon allowance, so that way they can open fire with their lead belcher guns directly into my opponent. So that will be pretty fun as well. And that pretty much makes up the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the Anvil of Hell as well as the Hammer of the Gods moving around the King in Yellow statue as well as that tower, so that way they can start opening fire with their cannons. And here's a close-up of my Red Rovers charging directly into the White Lions, so that part was pretty nice. I didn't get the boosted charge, I just got the normal one impacted to piece because unfortunately I didn't roll 10 or higher for my charge, so that part was kind of sad. And here's a close-up of Stankum's Legion failing their charge, as well as my powder gangers getting ready to bring the pain with some hardcore shooting. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And the magic phase, I spent all my power dice in order to dispel Ice Shard Blizzard, so that way my powder gangers get back their +1. They don't have to suffer that -1 to hit, as well as -1 to the leadership, because that part was kind of sad. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And the shooting phase was pretty much a mixed bag on this one. So I opened fire with the Anvil of Hell, which is the Iron Blaster on the right hand side, and I rolled 2 misfires right off the bat, so that part was kind of sad. And then I rolled in the black powder chart to see exactly what happened to my cannon. I rolled a 1. So with that, with a huge explosion of fireball and greatness, the Anvil of Hell just gets destroyed right off the bat, so that part was pretty horrific. So that part really sucked. However, the silver lining of this being, though, is that my other Iron Blaster, the Hammer of the Gods, managed to plink off one of the Reigns of Caledor, so that's one less Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower that I gotta worry about, so that part was kind of cool. However, the main star of the show, though, were my powder gangers. They opened fire directly into the Lore Master's blades, managed to kill 8 of those guys right off the bat, so that part was kind of cool as well. In the end, I was able to generate something like 24 shots, but when it was all said and done, I only managed to kill 8 of those guys, but that's 8 less Sword Masters of Hoth I really got to worry about, because High Elves are like tissue people. They get torn really, really simply and really easily, so that part was kind of nice. So with shooting over, we go directly to the combat phase, and the combat phase ended up being a slaughter that was taking place between the Red Rovers as well as the White Lions of Trace, so that part was pretty crazy as well. In the end, the White Lions were able to kill 2 of my Ogres. They managed to cause 6 wounds. However, at the same time, though, I managed to cause 7 wounds by killing 7 of those White Lions, so that part was kind of cool. It was after a combination of stomps as well as Ogre charges as well as using my normal attacks as well. So needless to say, I beat them by 1 point from the kills, plus I got a standard, but they got a standard too, so that kind of cancels out. And at the same time, though, I charged because I beat them by 2. So my opponent, of course, had to roll for a break test, and unfortunately for him, though, he failed both of them. So unfortunately, my opponent, when he rolled for his break test, he failed both of his break tests, so he was forced to flee. He only rolled like snake eyes in order to run away, and I rolled like a 9, I think, is what I'm doing. So because of that, my Red Rovers just overrun real quick and chop those guys down and kill them. At the same time, overrunning directly into the Dawn Guard, which is made up of the Lothern Sea Guard. So that part was pretty cool as well. And because, of course, they have a Sea Helm, they were able to use Naval Discipline, and they go into column formation of 6 wide and 4 deep in order to take on my Red Rovers. So that part was pretty amazing. So with that, we go directly to the bottom, turn number 2 for the High Elves, and Fresh Prince Belair decides to take the offense. He decides to charge forward. First thing he does is declare a charge of this Phoenix Guard and land successfully directly into Stankum's Legion, so now my Iron Guts are now engaged in close combat. At the same time, he also charges forward with the Lord Master's Blades as well as the Sunrunner, and those units go crashing directly into my Powder Gangers as well. At the same time, though, his Dawn Guard are still currently engaged in my Red Rovers, so they don't go anywhere. At the same time, he does a quick reform real quick with his Silver Sentinels in the top right-hand corner, and they turn 180 in order to charge to the back of my Powder Gangers, so that part is pretty terrifying as well. So here's a close-up of the Red Rovers as well as the Dawn Guard getting ready to throw it down in the combat phase, and I'm pretty excited to see how that combat will go. And here's a close-up of his Lord Master's Blades as well as his Sunrunner charging directly into the Powder Gangers, as well as the the Ever Wardens charging directly into my Stankum's Legion as well. And finally, here's a close-up of the Silver Sentinels who have done a quick reform so that way they can charge the back ranks of my forces on his next movement phase. So with the movement phase over with, you go directly to the magic phase. And during the magic phase, the Hell Heart strikes again.
Klaatu, Miranda.
So at the beginning of my opponent's magic phase, I decided to pop the Hellheart to be a little vindictive and managed to make my opponent roll a 7 on that one. So because of that, his wizard basically just kind of blows up from magical overload and managed to kill 4 more Lord Master's Blades, and that's 4 less Sword Masters of Hoeth I gotta deal with. At the same time, though, he did also manage to put a wound onto one of my ogres, but you know, that's the small price to pay in order to kill some High Elves. So with his magic phase over with, we skip shooting phase because his bolt throwers missed their shots, and we go directly to the combat phase. And as you can see in this photo, it ended up being a complete slaughter during the combat phase. Oh my god, I had no problem telling you that whatsoever. In the end, the Sunrunner with its impact hits as well as the attacks from Lord Master's Blades managed to kill 5 of my Powder Gangers. They caused 15 wounds, oh sorry, 16 wounds actually, because they also put a floating wound on another one as well. They managed to cause 16 wounds when it was all said and done. Unfortunately for me, I did nothing back in return. I could just flood my rolls spectacularly, so because I nothing much really happened. So needless to say, my opponent basically just kind of schooled me on this one and just destroyed my units. And of course, I have to take a panic test, a break test to see if my guys will run away. And needless to say, I failed my break test. My Powder Gangers run back 8 inches, and my opponent, I think, rolls an 11 to pursue. So the Sunrunner just tears through the forest and just destroys my Powder Gangers and just cuts them down to the last man. And if you're wondering what that little red dye there right there is for, that was from one of my Powder Gangers, and we forgot to pick that one up, so I do apologize. My opponent does, of course, pass his dangerous terrain test with his Sunrunner Chariot because why not? And then, of course, his Sword Masters, of course, do a quick combat reform to poke over to the right-hand side so that they can charge the right-hand flank of my Stankum's Legion. So that part was pretty glorious. Meanwhile, combat between the Red Rovers as well as the Dawn Guard was actually pretty lackluster for the most part. In the end, they were able to put 2 wounds onto me, and I was able to put 3 wounds onto them. So I caused 1 additional wound beyond that. However, they got 2 ranks as well as a Battle Standard Bearer as well as a Standard Bearer. So because of that, they pretty much won this combat. Luckily for me, though, I did not run away. I rolled Snake Eyes for these guys, just rolled Insane Courage. So because of that, my Red Rovers managed to stand their ground. So I got really lucky on that one, because if I hadn't done that, I'd roll beneath the 3, I think is what I need to roll. Otherwise, these guys would probably get run down as well. So got very, very lucky on that part. Meanwhile, on the top of the screen, in the middle of the battlefield, the combat between Stankum's Legion as well as the Ever Wardens was actually pretty much a glorious slaughter. In the end, they were able to put 7 wounds onto my guys, killing 2 of my Iron Guts and putting a floating wound on another one. At the same time, I did manage to kill 11 Phoenix Guards, so that part was kind of cool as well. So based on wounds, I actually beat them by 4 on that part. They got a rank, so it drops me down to 3. They also have a Standard Bearer that drops me down to a 1. But then again, I also have a Standard Bearer as well and a Battle Standard Bearer. So because of that, brings me back up to 3 again, and I also have a rank as well, so it brings it to 4. So technically speaking, I beat these guys by 4, so their leadership drops down to leadership 5. But unfortunately for me, though, my opponent managed to pass his break test no problem, because High Elves don't break. So because of that, the Phoenix Guards stand their ground, and I do a quick combat reform since I won combat, and I made my unit 4 wide and 2 deep, so that way I can bring more attacks against the Phoenix Guard in the next round. And that pretty much ends the combat phase on that one. So that being over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the move phase. And as you can see in this photo, not much movement is really taking place. My Red Rovers as well as Stankum's Legion are still currently engaged with their High Elf units, and the only real movement that took place was the Anvil, the Hammer of the Gods, which is my last Iron Blaster. He moves up forward 6 inches to get closer, so that way he can start engaging those bolt throwers. And that's pretty much it for the movement phase. So here's a close-up of my one Iron Blaster, the Hammer of the Gods, moving as quickly as it possibly can across the battlefield, so that way it can start doing some shooting. And here's a close-up of my Red Rovers, who are just holding on by the, barely by the skin of their teeth, fighting against the unit of the Dawn Guard, because these guys are pretty tough for being High Elves. So that part's pretty brutal. And finally, here's a close-up of Stankum's Legion taking on the Phoenix Guard as well. Now, we do skip the magic phase in this turn, and the reason why is because I rolled, I think, a 4 when it was all said and done for 4 power dice. I rolled a 3 and a 1, and my opponent got 3 power dice. Needless to say, none of my spells went off because my opponent just pretty much just spilled everything I tried to cast, so that part was kind of brutal. So with the magic phase over with, you go directly to the shooting phase. And disaster once again strikes during the shooting phase. I went to open fire with my Iron Blaster, and unfortunately for me though, I rolled a misfire, and then when I rolled up on the black battle chart to see exactly what happened to my misfire, I rolled another one, so because of that, kaboom! My poor Hammer of the Gods erupts in a ball of flame, and that thing gets engulfed in destruction and shrapnel, so that part was just horrific. So with the combat, with the shooting phase over with, to go directly to the combat phase, and this one ended up being kind of brutal for me as well. My opponent managed to kill 2 of my Ogre Bulls, so that part was kind of brutal, causing 6 wounds in total, and I managed to kill 4 High Elves as well. So because that, my opponent wins by 2. They also got a Standard Bearer and a Battle Standard Bearer, so that gives them a total of 4, plus 2 ranks, that gives them a grand total of 6. I'm only leadership 7 at this point, so because of that, things are not looking very good for my guys. And in order for me to stand my ground, I have to roll Snake Eyes for Insane Courage, and if you wouldn't believe it, I actually managed to pull it off a second time, which is pretty insane as well. My opponent saw First Prince Belair, man. He was super frustrated when he saw that second Snake Eyes pop up. He was like, you have to be freaking kidding me, but it actually worked out. So because of that, my last 2 Bulls, they're still holding on by a thread, facing off against the Dawn Guard, so that part was pretty epic. However, combat between the Phoenix Guard and the Ever Wardens against my Stankum's Legion did not go according to plan. That part was horrific. When it was all said and done, they managed to kill 3 of my Iron Guts, so that part was horrific. Managed to cause 9 wounds when it's all said and done. I managed to kill 2 Phoenix Guard. That's all I was able to do. However, they also have a rank, and they also have a Standard Bearer, but I also have a Standard Bearer as well, and I also have a Battle Standard Bearer as 2, so their combat score ends up being 7. I'm leadership 9, so that drops my leadership down to 2 for my break test, and of course, in order to stand my ground, I have to roll Snake Eyes.
Retreat! Retreat! Get the hell out of here!
And as you can probably guess, lightning does not strike twice in this case, so I rolled a flee, so I roll for my distance to flee, I roll a 10, so I'm thinking I'm pretty good, but my opponent also rolls a 10 to pursue, so because of that, they get destroyed right off the bat, and the Phoenix Guard go tearing 10 inches for just chopping down the last of Stankum's Legion, and that was absolutely horrific. So, needless to say, that takes us directly to the end of the game, because the only thing I have left are 2 Ogre Bulls, and my buddy Fresh Prince Belair managed to take the victory on this one. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the After Action Report, because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright, now it's time for the After Action Report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action Report for the Golden Age Battle Report number 69, and this one ended up being a defeat for Commander CheapSkate. I managed to score 570 victory points, while my opponent First Prince Belair managed to score 2,688 victory points when it's all said and done. Alright, so let's talk about my losses real quick. So first of all, I lost Taijin Khan, the Right Fist of Hell, Korgul the Giant Breaker, Burps of Blood, Stankum's Legion, the Bleach Claw Raiders, the Anvil of Hell, as well as the Hammer of the Gods. First Prince Belair, however, he lost the Silent Striders, the Everqueen's Rangers, as well as one of the Reigns of Caledor. In the end, this game was extremely bloody for a fight against High Elves. The problem I was facing during this battle report is I pretty much lost the initiative for the most part. First Prince Belair countercharging against my forces really threw me off, and it kind of prevented me from attacking his forces in mass, and that took away my Ogre charge ability for the most part, so I couldn't really take out Truth's Authority with my impact hits. So because of that, he was taking out my guys pretty quickly with his superior weapon skills. Unfortunately, Ogre Kingdoms are really good at fighting against armies that are equally skilled as them, but weaker in terms of toughness. So fighting against guys like the Empire, for example, they're really good against. However, they crumble really bad against highly skilled opponents. Kind of like bullies in real life. Like, bullies, if they're bigger and stronger than you, I mean, they can really, mess you up. But if you're a better fighter than they are, you could probably school them just like in real life. So that part was pretty crazy. Losing both of my Iron Blasters to misfiring was really, really painful, I don't mind telling you. But, that's the risk you also run when you use with black powder weapons in these games, using cannons. It's the risk you always run. And, having those blowing up every once in a while, it just comes with the territory as well. The only silver lining to this game, however, was that I was fighting against uneven odds. My buddy First Prince Belair accidentally brought in the Everqueen's Rangers, that white line unit. We kind of talked about that earlier. Originally, this unit was not part of the list. It was a complete mistake, and we didn't really find out about this mistake until we were actually totaling up the victory points. There's nothing malicious about it. It was just an honest mistake, and in the end, it didn't really matter, because I don't think it really mattered overall, because it didn't matter if that unit was there or not. I probably would have lost this game no matter what happened. In the end, though, this was an extremely fun game against an awesome opponent, and as always, I am looking forward to a rematch against my buddy Fresh Prince Belair. So that's good to do for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news on this channel. That's good to do for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.